Be a great idea. Thank you all for joining us today. We have Sean with Quantum, who will be presenting and talking about cyber resiliency via quantum technology and products. Exciting to be a partner with Quantum. They're a, um, a mature company, have been around a long time. They are one of the few companies that can offer backup with tape. You don't see that very often, but they have a very, very, very strong install base there, as well as other storage technologies, etc. And with that being said, yes, we will have trivia questions. We'll have three different questions. Each question is worth $50. Uh, Only one person can win one question.
Per
The
question.
winners will be announced following the seminar via an email follow-up. So I just want to get that out of the way. And Sean, if you're teed up and ready to go, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the quick intro and thanks for the partnership, you guys. And thanks for having me. I guess you guys have been putting this together, so I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody's time. Look, super brief intro here. Go to my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. As you can probably tell by my hair color a little bit, I've been at this for a long time. Believe it or not, I got my start in the data storage industry with tape. I won't tell you how many decades ago that was, but obviously things have evolved. And so what we're going to talk a little bit about today is how the landscape has changed from, kind of the traditional backup and recovery to cyber resilience. And we'll focus a little bit on what we do with Veeam, because I know that the KIS team does a decent amount with Veeam. And so we're going to focus a little bit on that. As Jane mentioned, if you have any questions, go ahead and pipe in, or you can throw those into the chat. I have the chat up next to me too. So if you have that, you can do that either way. So let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly, and I think we can get started. Actually, we're starting with I think a
Trivia question. Yep.
trivia question. So that's the intro slide. You guys can see that okay, right?
Yep.
And then it's trivia time.
So Jane, you want me to ask the question?
Yes, please. Go ahead. The
Oh,
poll, the chat, the
oh,
first question is popped up on the window. Go ahead and read
yeah.
the question, Mike.
So, what industry was attacked most severely in 2024 by ransomware? And I know the answer, and it was surprising to me.
I was a little surprised by this one too, but kind of interesting stuff is taking a look at the registration of the people who wanted to attend today. This is very relevant to a good number of you. So this will be a fun one to get through.
And yeah, if we can highlight on a little bit too, why that particular industry was targeted so much.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of reasons. When we get to the answer here in just a little bit, we'll talk through some of this. But at the end of the day, it's actually affecting everyone. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing about it, right? Is it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Everybody is impacted by this now, and it's getting harder to manage. And so that's what we're talking a little bit about today.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's top of mind on every discussion we have with prospects and customers. So, Jane, we don't have our Jeopardy music to to indicate
Yes.
what. Da, 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 da,
Yes,
da,
not
da.
today. Yes, next time I'll get all the music and all of that, or I'll just play it for you.
No
Um,
problem.
So yeah,
so we have a result.
yeah,
Okay.
take a
Let's
look.
just share. It was very interesting to see healthcare was, the majority of you thought. But Sean, Mike, tell us what's actually is the
Well,
right answer.
let me get my hard hat on first. It's construction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's talk about that a little bit because I think look, at the end of the day, the I pulled some current data because it's super easy to have stuff that's been going on, especially since 2020. The pandemic is when things really took off for ransomware attacks, and it's pretty easy to understand why because so many people started working from home in a very short amount of time. A lot of infrastructure wasn't prepared for the level of security needed to send, people out into and working from home. And so the ransomware guys really doubled down. And even since then, we're going to talk about this a little bit, but they've automated so many pieces of the ransomware attacks that now it's just not that difficult. I hate to say it, but it's just not that difficult. So even in current, Q4 of 2024, you can see that things are still ticking up. The ransomware victims, these are the victims that were posted on leaked sites, is still significantly higher even than it was in 2021 and 2022. And it's so it's not slowing down, I guess, is the point of the slide. And then similarly, back to the trivia question, this one is pretty fascinating. I think we all know that government and healthcare was hit pretty hard, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. But look, the bad guys are going to find out where the vulnerabilities lie, and where the customers are most vulnerable, because candidly, they know that they can go and get dollars from almost anybody as long as they're willing to pay it.
Yep.
And as long as the insurance companies are willing to insure the companies, and then as long as everything's on the up and up, the insurance companies are paying for some of this. So I think this is relevant to some of you who have joined the call today, because I noticed from the registrations we have people in the construction industry, government, hospitals, and IT. Interestingly enough, financial services down a tiny bit. I wouldn't say it's a lot, but down a little bit. And I think a lot of that is because the level of investment those companies have put into their cybersecurity and cyber resilience environment. So it makes perfect sense. So really cool, interesting data. I love going out and finding out some of the new stuff that's out there. And this is just from March of this year.
Okay. I saw some, some story on a news channel about certain black hat people, let's just say, people on the dark web. They were actually providing ransomware tools and processes to people as a service.
As a service, that's right.
And it's become just another form of business. And it's I never thought that would happen.
100%. And I think a lot of that, that as a service thing has also taken off because they've automated so much. I mean, just look at, what I put in red here is they're using AI engines now to automate targeting, especially smaller companies, because it's a very repeatable, way to get in. So, look, at the end of the day, a bunch of some of these numbers, but I think there are a couple of them that are surprising and by the way, I just came out of over 4 years at Pure Storage, where we were partnering with Veeam, Commvault, and those guys, but especially Veeam. It was not uncommon for us to be working with customers who were down for more than a week trying to get backup after they got hit. And by putting in an all-flash tier, which we're going to talk a lot about today, but putting in an all-flash tier helped them recover when they got hit the second time. Because never assume that when you get hit the first time, you're never going to get hit again. A lot of times it's 3 months, 4 months later, believe it or not. So taking that window from in this particular case, over 3 weeks of average downtime down to a few hours is paramountly important. And look, we know what kind of data they're going after. It's not just, banking and financial data. They're going after personal data inside of companies' infrastructure. And a lot of that is because that's where the ransomware, people are willing to pay the ransom when they know some of their personal data is getting leaked or locked down or whatever. So a lot of good data here. None of these should be that much of a surprise, other than our job collectively here is to mitigate that as much as we can, and especially make sure that when you do get hit, because you have to assume you're going to get hit, and if you do encrypt some of your data or all of your data, how fast can you recover? And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Excellent.
So from a quantum perspective, I think the team did it, Mike mentioned it already. What's quantum known for? We've been in the industry for 40 plus years or whatever, and we're definitely still known for tape. The tape marketplace is consolidating a little bit, which is great for us. We have incredible tape products, and obviously we're known for that. We have StorNext products for high performance video workflows. I've been working in that product for almost 20 years. Backup appliances, we've had those since the early days of, and actually help patent, believe it or not, the deduplication engines that still are out there today. So we've been in this business for a very long time. And then a few years ago, we bought into some video surveillance business. But what you guys probably do not know about Quantum is that we have all flash products, multiple products, all flash for cyber resilience. And what that really comes down to is making sure that we're working closely with all of these vendors, especially Veeam, working with all of these vendors to make sure that we're certified, qualified, tested, validated. And yes, we have customers with all of these applications that are out there running. So at the end of the day, just keep in mind that you have alternatives for all flash in cyber resilient environments. And that's what we're here to remind you of today. Give Quantum a chance. If you're looking at all flash in your environment for fast recovery, then you got to give us a chance. So Mike, you want to talk a little bit about KIS?
Sure. So you mentioned that Quantum's been around, 40 years. Here on the slide, it states that, KIS has been around for 30 plus years. Actually, we're approaching 40 years also. We were established in 1988. We've been around a long time. We have a very established install base of customers, and that's growing all the time. We also supplement our ability to provide product with expert service from our engineering team, who are all employees, are not 1099. We deal with top tier manufacturers in the technology sector, and we work mainly for our customers. We don't go into an opportunity with a tool bag saying, here is the solution. We analyze what your environment's like. We talk to you about what your expectations are, what your desires are as far as an outcome, what your budget is, and then we provide you with a number of different solutions, highlighting on what you should expect from each solution, and then help you to implement that if you so desire. Again, our focus SMB, which can be a wide swath of companies, and also the public sector. We very strong in SLED, state, local government, and higher education. And again, our mission is to help our clients resolve business issues or IT issues with technology. So in a net final bucket, that's who we are. I think most of the people on the call today have dealt with KIS for a while, and they understand who we are. One thing I'd like to mention is that sometimes we are somewhat pigeonholed by our customers saying, oh, you're the Quantum people, or oh, you're the VMware people, or oh, you're the Veeam people. We do it all. So keep an open mind when you're looking for solutions to your issues. We're very broad and we're very deep. So Sean, back to you.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about some of these today. Just I think what Mike talked about here is that there's multiple pieces to, security offering. Cyber resilience is definitely part of that. So just know that the KIS team has all of the expertise across multiple product lines, and especially services. I think it's such a big piece to understand that there isn't a silver bullet of just products to walk in and solve cybersecurity and cyber resilience challenges, right? It's
Yes.
also very process oriented. You need to have all parts of the organization be behind not only how to thwart the bad guys, but also when there is a bad day, because the chances are there is going to be a bad day, then how is everybody working together to get the company back up and running in a very, very short amount of time? And I think the key there is that knowing that your data has been protected, you know how you're going to be able to restore it in a short amount of time. If you have cyber resilience or cybersecurity insurance, those insurance companies are looking for your plan, and they want to know how you practiced your plan.
Right.
Have you done all of the homework to make sure that when you do get hit, we can get you back up in a couple hours? And that's really a big piece of what we're going to kind of touch on today for sure.
Yeah, and KIS, we can certainly help our customers go through their insurance checklist to make sure that They have all the necessary items checked off to enable them to get insurance at a competitive rate. So that's something we do every day.
Yeah, awesome. And you guys are big with Veeam. Like we're going to talk a little bit more about Veeam, but you guys really kind of doubling down on your Veeam practice, right?
We've been a partner with Veeam for many, 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 many years. Ever since they actually came up through the virtualization backup arena, we've been a partner with Veeam, you bet.
Yeah. I would say, my experience, I've been working with Veeam on and off for, oh my goodness, now I'm going to say 8 or 10 years or whatever it is. And I have to say their progression of where they've grown up to today,
Yep. Uh-huh.
600,000 customers is not small. That,
No.
their global reach is extreme. And look, the products just keep getting better. We're a beta site for their new version that's coming out in the fall. And so we keep up with all the latest and greatest stuff, and there's some really interesting things coming. So keep an eye out for that with Veeam. So I think it's time for a trivia question again, I think. Is that right, Jane?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's just keep this going, and then we'll get into some of the meat of the Veeam conversations.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let's launch it.
Okay, so here we go. What Veeam partnership level is KIS?
Okay, so that's cool. So we kind of gave you guys a little bit of a slide on that. So this is a pay attention slide. So we'll see how many people paid attention to what level of partnership Veeam has with KIS.
Is
And
black belt a valid level?
it could be.
Could
I
be.
don't want to divulge too much, but it could be.
It could be. Thank you.
Good job on these, Jane, by the way.
Thanks. All right, let's end it.
Okay. Thanks everybody for participating.
Okay, fantastic. 100%. Those of you who picked gold, you were paying attention to the previous slide, so we appreciate that. Black belt, that's fantastic. All right, so let's get into the meat a little bit on the cyber resilience stuff. I admit that I took a slide from Veeam. This is their slide, by the way, and I love it because it just touches on so many parts of what we do with Veeam from a quantum perspective. First of all, we should have put this up as a trivia question. Does anybody know where the zip code 32110 is? I actually looked it up. It's a small town just south of Orlando, Florida, I think. I forget what it's called. But anyway, so look, Veeam coined this. The 321 principle for backup and recovery has been around for a very long time, which is have 3 copies of your data, different media, and have an offsite copy. I think what's changed, especially over the last, 5 years especially, is the notion of having an all-flash tier for fast recovery. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a little bit too. The other pieces of it that they've added over the last few years is this notion of an offline air-gapped and immutable copy. And then also just ensuring that that when you're recovering your data, that it's there and you can get it back and that it's clean. And Veeam has so many great features built into it that help to do that. I think a key component here is getting back to the all flash stuff. Yes, remember, I still want to pitch tape and our disk-based products too, but having an all flash tier actually enables some of Veeam's features to actually work so much better because they are performance oriented. This is in fact a case even for their sandbox environments. So that's part of the reason why this all flash high performance tier is super important. But at the end of the day, things like immutability through object lock. So this gets into more object oriented storage tiers, if you will, that we'll be talking about here in a little bit. And then also, it was really nice to see Veeam calling out the fact that it's tape and cloud. It's nice to see Veeam still embracing tape in the marketplace. There is still nothing that's less expensive and more protected than tape, candidly. If you have a tape copy, You've got something on site, maybe also taken off remote site, but know that it's immutable, know the bad guys cannot get to it, and absolutely know that you can recover from it. But remember, that's your slow tier to recover from. It's not your fast tier, and that's why we like talking about Flash. So cyber resilient storage for Veeam, this is across, pretty much any of the storage providers that are out there. But at the end of the day, it is important to embrace the fact that no matter if you have what your environment looks like, whether it's a hybrid environment, a hybrid cloud environment, an on-prem environment, you need to have an on-premise all-flash tier. And the reason for that is that no matter what, if you do get hit, let's say it the other way. When you do get hit, and they've encrypted a bunch of your data, Veeam, look, the two places that the bad guys go first, the first place they go is to the VMware cluster. So that's the very first place that they go and encrypt. And the second place they go to is the backups. So think about that. We just talked about two things that Veeam is incredibly good at. They're incredibly good at protecting VMware VM environments, and they're obviously incredibly good at the backup and recovery piece. So they've integrated the pieces together along with the data storage providers to make sure that there's an immutable, fast copy to recover from. So that whole notion of a high performance all flash tier is super important. If you do not have that, yes, Veeam still has immutable copies. They can go to the cloud or go to your tape library, or you can go to your disk-based products and get them. Just know for a fact that depending upon how much data you had that got encrypted or deleted or whichever, and you go to restore that, if you don't have an all-flash target to restore to, and especially if you have an all-flash target to restore from, you're going to be down for days, weeks, and or months, believe it or not. We at Pure Storage, we had a customer who was down for nearly a month trying to get their data back. They paid John, the ransom.
Did they survive?
They did. Interestingly enough, they did survive. It was pretty, I won't say who it is. It was pretty public though. They were down. They got some of their basic business operations up and going in about 2.5 weeks, and that's what made the news. But it still took them another week and a half to get most everything else back. And most all of their data was in the cloud. And it was very expensive to recover it from the cloud as well. So they deployed an all-flash solution during the recovery phase of getting that data back and had it there. And then interestingly enough, they got hit again about 4 months later. And that 3 weeks, let's just say that 3-week recovery changed to less than a day. And so that's what the value proposition for an all-flash tier is about. Also, this whole notion of multi-level of immutability, indelibility is you can't delete it, but those two things are really important. And obviously that's a key component of what Veeam does, but also of what Quantum does. And so having these secure snapshots on an all-flash tier is super important. We're talking about a 15-day, maybe a 30-day retention time on that all-flash tier, but that's the important tier. And we're doing that through snapshots coordinated with Veeam. And then, of course, air gap is still a super important piece of it, meaning you still have to have a copy somewhere that you can really rely on that hasn't been changed, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's on tape. Even a disk-based product is okay, as long as your infrastructure is set up appropriately. And this is where the KIS team really comes in to help give you a consulting approach to tell us what you're trying to achieve, what your budget's like, and then how are we going to build out an environment that's going to get you back when you need it. And that's back to the whole on-prem hybrid cloud value proposition, which is we're not assuming that everybody's going to move everything to Quantum all flash and you have billions of dollars to spend just to throw at this problem. So there's obvious pieces to this, which is a hybrid cloud approach is actually a very good one in my experience. And we've talked about this already. It doesn't matter what your enterprise is, whether it's commercial, SLED, Fed. We have service providers that utilize Quantum as their storage tiers across multiple customers. And, it's not just Veeam backup and recovery. It's also Kasten, and we have solutions to help in M365 protected workloads with Veeam as well. So we kind of cover the gamut of being able to protect a Veeam environment. And this is kind of my busy slide, but it's just to make the point, which is look, Veeam is extremely good at protecting the data and orchestrating where the data should live, right? So that's what they're very good at. Let them keep doing that. But if you haven't deployed a fast recovery tier, an all-flash tier, then your environment could look like kind of what's on the right side of that red line, which is you probably have disk-based repositories for Veeam sitting out there, and those are probably orchestrating copies to the cloud or to tape or whatever. That's your multiple copies in different locations stuff. From a Quantum perspective, we have multiple products to solve many pieces of this workload. So think about working with KIS and knowing that when we're all working together, Quantum, KIS, coming together, instead of picking out multiple vendors for each pieces of this, you can have a single vendor taking responsibility and coordinating the data protection across your Veeam environment. So the notion today is, hey, let's talk about making sure that you have an all-flash tier. We have multiple products that do that. We have DXi T-Series, which is a deduplication appliance. We also have object storage. So ActiveScale Z-Series is an all-flash and disk-based, but it's an all-flash object store. There's lots of benefits for using one over the other. But at the end of the day, it's about us working together and making sure that we're delivering the right solution to our customers as opposed to the products. I think Mike touched on that earlier. This isn't just a product sale when you're going in to solve cyber resilience problems. This is definitely a solution that has to be provided to customers based on their requirements, their needs, their budgets, and all of that other stuff. Probably most of you didn't know that Quantum had these all-flash product lines. And that's really what we wanted to kind of introduce with you guys a little bit today. So just to sort of wrap up a little bit, I think there's a couple questions coming in the chat. I'll jump into the chat here in just a second. But at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is, one, embrace the fact that you should be considering very strongly a high-speed all-flash recovery tier. It doesn't have to be a petabyte big. Quantum's products start at only 15 terabytes. We have the smallest all-flash deduplication target in the marketplace. That means that we can go into the SMB markets. It's a great place to get started. Know that you can have maybe 15 days or 20 days of a recovery sitting on flash, that in case you need it, it's there for you. We still have our ActiveScale object storage. It starts at about 100 terabytes, but the beauty with object is it's not only all flash, it's disk-based. It can be a long-term tier as well, but it also has the ability to tier from the object storage directly to tape. There's a lot of cool benefits around that, but obviously that's something that we'd work on when we get into a customer environment. And just know that we have one of the best air gap protection solutions in the market. So everything from all flash, super high speed, got to get my data back, orchestrating all the way to tape, which is your immutable air gap copy, all from one vendor. And that's why we love working with KIS is that they're very familiar with all of our solutions. We work well together, and we've got customers to go do it together and prove it. So I think we have another trivia question, and then we can start on some of the Q&A.
Cool. All right, Shane.
All right. Oops. Stop sharing. Sorry about that. There you go.
All right. Question number 3. What is the Veeam zip code?
Yes, is it 94539 90210 30265 or 32100?
I think, yeah. That one we spent a whole slide on, so I think
Yeah.
on that.
Hopefully people paid attention. All right, so 3, 2, and 1. End the poll and share the result.
There we go.
All right. So the right answer is 90210. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
32100.
I think the slide. I think it's okay. I think it's 32110, but it's close enough to being. It's within the same.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. It's not a big deal. Look, the whole point of the trivia questions is one, it makes it a little bit more fun, but at the end of the day, it's to highlight the fact that we've got some nice prizes to help you guys with, and just to kind of reinforce a little bit of some of our messaging. So let me go ahead and go to the chat really quick. Can you touch base a little bit more on Veeam and ActiveScale Flash? Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, I just came off of a meeting just a couple of days ago with the product manager at Veeam who manages the object storage part of Veeam's business with the alliance partners. He gave us a really good, I'm trying to write a blog or get a webinar going with him, but he basically said the reliability and the performance that's coming out of ActiveScale is unlike any of the other alliance partners that he's working with. So when we talk about ActiveScale Flash, remember ObjectScale is an S3 object target. So it uses S3, it's an object storage on the back end. And there's benefits to that for sure. Not just the all flash component, that's the performance tier. That's where you get really high performance. But it's also because one of the nice things about S3 Object is that it can be multi-workload. So that means that you can have Veeam as a target for, you can have ActiveScale as a target for Veeam, but if you're developing AI workloads, or maybe you even have a different backup and recovery solutions, because it's not uncommon for Veeam to sit next to, let's say, Commvault. That object storage or that ActiveScale can be shared by multiple applications. So there's a lot of benefits to ActiveScale, even on Flash, not just about the performance, but also about the multi-workload capabilities that Object provides as a storage tier. Hopefully that answered the question. If not, call me out and I'm happy to touch more on that. Why would I choose deduplication appliances over object storage? Wow, that's a great question. This one's a nuance. It depends on every customer is going to want to look at this slightly differently. One of the things that we all know about Veeam, including the Veeam team, if they're on here, they know this. Their deduplication isn't the fastest in the world, and that's just due to their architecture. They chose an open architecture, and therefore deduplication isn't their strongest suit. And they absolutely love a deduplication target to write to. And so that's why the Quantum DXI deduplication appliances are incredibly powerful for Veeam. Veeam loves having a deduplication appliance because theirs isn't all that great. So customers will turn off the Veeam dedupe and rely on the storage hardware to take on the dedupe. If the dedupe is good enough from Veeam and customers want a more open, object-oriented multi-workload, we just touched on it, object storage via S3, then that's why you would choose object storage as your repository. So it's not that they're mutually exclusive. Well, you have customers, especially service providers, who have both. They have deduplication appliances sort of as their first tier, if you want to call it that, and then they use object storage for their second tier of slower. It's slightly slower, but it's also scales much bigger into multiple petabytes or exabytes, believe it or not. So it can scale to almost any capacity point. And then again, we talked about it being multi-workload. So every customer is slightly different, but we definitely do a lot more DXI sales with Veeam customers than we do ActiveScale object. And then let's see the last question. How does Flash play a role if I'm a cloud infrastructure user? Yeah, I think I touched on this a little bit, but it's a great question to reinforce again, Kurt, which is it doesn't matter really what your final repository is. In fact, it needs to be relatively inexpensive, and it needs to be obviously air-gapped and immutable, and cloud is great for that. Even Veeam has its own cloud infrastructure now that you can subscribe to. So it's not that we're trying to go in and remove, if you will, or replace that cloud infrastructure. There's a lot of great reasons for cloud. But only having a cloud infrastructure or having a disk-based and cloud infrastructure doesn't give you the fast recovery after you get hit. And so the whole idea here of sharing our all flash story with you guys is that it is paramountly important to have an all flash tier sitting, on-prem or in your colo or whatever, because relying completely on a cloud infrastructure, it solves the immutability problem, it solves the long-term data protection problem, but it does not solve that recovery problem when you get hit. And that's where all flash plays a paramountly important role. I would love to tell you guys how much we sold when I was at Pure Storage over the years behind Veeam, but it is a very big number. And the whole notion of that is Pure's expensive. Like they're a very expensive solution. And they started, I think they have smaller products now, but they were starting at 260 terabytes. Where we start at 15, as I was mentioning earlier. But having a all-flash tier storage is what took off, and that's all based on when customers do get hit, how fast can they restore? And so don't kick out your cloud infrastructure. Just take the time, work with the KIS team to bring in an all-flash tier. It could be relatively small, 15, 20, 50 terabytes, whatever that looks like, but make sure that you're considering that as part of your overall cyber resilience and cybersecurity infrastructure. So another good question. And that's all the questions that I have. Does anybody else have anything else?